It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. I am Marco Nobles. We have our virtual studio open, and we have a special guest in our virtual studio, a young lady that some of you may remember seeing on The Voice a couple seasons back. She is from the area here in New York, Amanda Ayala. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good, and thank you so much for having me. Hopefully, you're doing well.
I am doing well and great to have you. So let's start at the beginning. You're actually from uh, Upper Westchester.
Yes, so I'm up in Upper Westchester, New York.
All right. So which town? Because
Are you familiar with Jefferson Valley?
yes, familiar with Jefferson Valley. We're based here in New York, though. Though people are listening and watching from all over, but we're based here in New York. So definitely familiar with the area and good to talk to someone still in the area.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Now I mentioned many of us got to see you on The Voice. Talk about that experience.
The Voice honestly was such an incredible experience, and getting to do something that massive at such an early stage in my career, I think really set the tone. I think moving forward, I got to learn a lot, and in such a professional setting at such an early age. So I took so much with me. The experience was incredible. The people that I met were some of the best and most genuine people that I've encountered. And overall, like I just absolutely loved the experience.
Excellent. And I guess that would be considered your breakthrough, so to speak. Though you had been singing and everything before The Voice, but that would be, I guess, your breakthrough.
Yes, so honestly, prior to The Voice, I wasn't really even doing anything original music wise. I just was in cover bands in high school, playing like local bar shows and, basically playing 80s rock covers the entire time. And by the time when I turned 17, a casting director saw a YouTube video of me singing House of the Rising Sun. And they reached out, they liked what they heard, and then they asked me if I was interested in auditioning. And then the rest was history.
Right. So you mentioned you hadn't done original music really much before that. So was being on The Voice kind of like a catalyst for you to start doing your own original music?
It really was because I think going into it, I was 17, and some of the other cast members were even younger. Some were 14 and 15, and just seeing how almost behind I was in the songwriting aspect, it kind of jolted me. It kind of put a little lightning in my boots just to kind of get moving faster with the songwriting. And I saw so many incredible songs were being written by so many people younger than me, and they had so many different stories at their ages. So I think I got to learn a lot. I learned how to write, essentially what to write about, and I was just inspired by the people around me, and everything that was going on. So that really fronted, I guess, the songwriting process for me after that.
Right, right. So now the season that you were on The Voice was what, 2 years ago?
Gosh, it was actually, now it's moving towards, like, I think like 7. I think it was
Really?
2015.
Oh, 2015.
2015.
Wow, time moves really fast.
It really really does.
Okay, all right. So obviously since then you mentioned the songwriting started to come, and we're going to talk about your current single in a minute, but the next steps after The Voice it wasn't just back to the cover bands and bar shows. You were able to start opening for different folks, right?
Yes, that's 100% true. And it was kind of like this roller coaster of emotions because, right when I got home from The Voice, it was a couple months before it even aired. So I kind of went into that like lull where like nobody knew what was going on. So I kind of just did a couple bar shows in between before the news got out. But then the minute that word got out, and then I made a team and it aired on television, the opportunities just totally started flooding in. And ever since then, I had the opportunity to open for Eddie Money, Taylor Dane, Expose. I did so many great shows with opening for so many incredible artists. So it really opened the doors for opportunities for me since then.
Right. Rhythm and Soul Radio. We are talking with Amanda Ayala. We're going to be talking about her new single "Rags to Riches" in just a minute. Talk about the process. You mentioned the songwriting and the learning about the songwriting part, and then being able to start opening for different artists once The Voice actually hit, or the season that you were on actually hit. Um, Talk about that process of then now starting to work on your own music after spending that time doing the covers and being in cover bands and that sort of thing.
So yeah, during the time, of The Voice, I really didn't even know what I wanted to say, like as a songwriter, because I just feel like at that time of being 17 and so young, I haven't really gone through much in life. But I feel like going through something like that, there were so many emotions that I stemmed from. And then that's when, I started writing my emotions down in songs, just with me and my acoustic guitar. And I wrote like at least 6 or 7 songs while I was filming the show, which
Hmm.
then I was able to finally take with me once it aired to perform with my band with these openers. So I went from having no material to like 6 or 7 songs right after The Voice, ready to go and ready to perform live for the opener shows instead of having to do covers. So it was like that was a nice jump start that I was able to have while filming, just kind of being multi-productive.
Right. And it's interesting because you are still an independent artist, but you have that jump start, like you said, from this, national worldwide platform of The Voice to be able to kind of kick you out there. So were you able to be, put together an EP with like the immediate songs, or was it really songs that you were able to just tour with and be or perform with, in the areas you were opening for different folks?
It's that's a good question. It kind of varied in a sense, because I feel like those songs that I did then are like vastly different than the way that I write now. And unfortunately, the songs that I wrote, only one has seen the light of day. And that was my first single called "Lost You." So none of those songs have ever been released since. So they were just kind of like the touring catalog right after that. But I felt like since that time and since I became more experienced and more seasoned as a more professional musician, the songs just got better, and I started to kind of put those to the side and start to introduce the new material that I felt more strongly connected with.
Right, right, right. Now we mentioned your acoustic guitar playing. Are there any other instruments that you play, or is it strictly guitar?
So actually, the drums were the first instrument that I ever learned.
Oh,
I
nice.
Yeah, so I asked my parents. I was like, I want to play the drums. So one Christmas they got me like a starter kit, and I just learned that I was always just banging on the drums. So that was actually the first instrument that I learned, and then I was like, I can't drum and sing, so I'm gonna have to learn something that I can do both with. So then I picked up the acoustic guitar.
Right, right. And I guess it makes you appreciate drummers who do sing, because there are a lot of drummers who do sing, and I've always wondered how the amount of cardio it takes to do that.
It's so true. I see them and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm gassed just drumming in general. I couldn't even imagine drumming and singing at the same time. So I give them so much credit.
Right, right, right. As you mentioned, your writing is different from right after The Voice to where you are now. You have the current single "Rags to Riches." Talk about the differences in the writing, and talk about "Rags to Riches" and the story of it, because it is kind of like a story for people to kind of understand and really listen to.
Yeah, so it's funny, as we talk about like like my journey and being on The Voice at a young age. Like the number one thing with Rex to Riches I wrote about was like living like the Hollywood dream. But to compare the two, essentially, like I think in my writing now, especially like Rags to Riches, I essentially wrote the song. I had really bad writer's block, and I just wrote the song almost as like a joke. Essentially, I was like, oh, I'm not really going to talk about these flashy things because that's not like my style. I kind of write like love songs, so I was just having fun with it. And I think that's the difference between like what I would previously write to like now. I'm not afraid to take risks in my songwritings because at the end of the day, it's a story, whether it's fact or fiction. I think I can get a little bit more creative. I push boundaries a little bit more lyrically than I did back then. And I think just like, my writing schemes have gotten a lot better. And I think I tell a more detailed story now than I did when I was 17.
Right, right, right. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. We are talking with Amanda Ayala. Her single is "Rags to Riches," and we're going to get into that in a bit. But as you talk about um, a style, if someone asks you, what is your sound or what is your music like, how would you describe it to folks?
It's tough because if you listen to my catalog, like you have the very very first single, "Bring It Back." Like it was a song called "Her," and that was like like a rock song, and that's kind of
Hmm.
what I did on The Voice. And as I've kind of evolved, it's turned into this more like alternative pop where you have natural organic elements, like I have real guitars, real drums, then also synthesizer. So I kind of consider like alt pop.
Okay, okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So, Rags to Riches is the single. It was just released recently. Has a full video and everything. You know, so
Yes.
talk about that and did that, or even the process of doing the video. Was that something you worked on with your team, or talk about the process of being able to do a video because now it's like another level. Was this your first video
So this
for a
was
single?
actually, I think I've had a few videos before this music video, but this one was the first time I ever independently did a music video and directed like the full video on my own, which was
Mm,
really fun and really exciting. And it was definitely, it had its challenges, but I think, at the end of the day, looking at the end result, like it's something that I can walk away really proud of. But it was a lot of fun to get to make because, initially when we talked about it, I wasn't going to have a video. And, me and my team, we talked, they were like, the song needs a video. You need a visual for this song. And we were brainstorming ideas and just, the song is really a flashy, lyrically song talking about wanting, private jets, fancy cars. But it was, how do we make a video that's visually pleasing and also doesn't come off too like tasteful to people? Like I'm trying to be like braggadocious. So we finally wrapped up the idea, and at the end we kind of came up with the idea that it was all going to just be a dream because everybody has once dreamed of the glitz and the glam at one point or
yes.
another.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So before we go, we have to make sure everybody knows where to find you, whether it's online, social media, whatever ways that people can find you and keep up with you and know about the upcoming music and any upcoming shows. Let everybody know how they can find Amanda Ayala.
Yes, so you can find me. I am on basically every social media that there is: Facebook, Instagram, now X, which was Twitter, Threads,
Right.
YouTube. And if you want to stream my music, I'm available on Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, wherever you stream music, you'll find my music there. So stay tuned for any upcoming releases that I have. Check out Rags to Riches if you haven't. And also, I'm going to be performing at the Big E, which is New England's like biggest fair and festival on September 23rd. So if you're in the area,
Awesome.
come on out.
Absolutely. It's Amanda Ayala joining us here in our virtual studio on Rhythm and Soul Radio. Her single is Rags to Riches, and we're going to play that now. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us for a little while.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was such a pleasure.
Excellent. Rhythm and Soul Radio, Amanda Ayala, Rags to Riches.